So, welcome, everybody to today's podcast. I am Hayya Lee-McDonald, real estate investor, entrepreneur, mom, wife, just busy life going on. And welcome to the podcast. Today, we talk about real estate, entrepreneurship, and everything that happens in between that. Today, I have got an interesting, very energetic person here with me, Paris Capers. He is an agent, a veteran, Marine veteran, and a dad and a husband. He's got like five things, probably more going on. But Paris and I met through Peace Morby's Sub 2 program. We're both in that mentorship group. And so it's a great community. I wanted to bring Paris on here because he has a lot of information to share, a lot of passion about real estate and doing good in this world, especially with veterans. So, Paris, I'm going to toss it over to you. Tell us a little bit about who you are. Give us like the 15-second rundown if you can. I know there's a whole lot about you, but give us the 15-second rundown.
No, I appreciate it. So the 15-second rundown is hard because I'm a talker, but in short, my name is Paris Capers. As you said, I'm an agent. I'm a unicorn agent here in North Carolina, and my biggest, highest value point right now is helping. Right, what I'm on a mission to do is I'm looking to demystify real estate and serve underserved communities. One like my own home in Philadelphia, and then also the veteran community, which I'm a part of. I was a Marine veteran for 15 years, and so alongside of being a father and a husband on all those things within there, my biggest impacts are to those people who are in the military, who have served in the military, and that community needs a little bit of help, as well as communities like my
Mm-hmm.
own back home in Philadelphia that also need some help. Right.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things within that, but that's the short version of what I'm after.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty good summary. And so each one of those things that you talked about is really a full-time job. I mean, anybody who is a parent, a spouse,
That's
an entrepreneur, real estate, each one of those is a full-time job. So how do you really make time for all of this?
So I make time by all with all excuse me. I make time for all these things really one with a schedule, right? Like I have a Google Calendar that effectively just runs my life. And so interestingly enough, like the event that we had this morning, one, I appreciate you having me here, but the schedule dictates what I do. And so I spend deliberate action time in the evenings going through my calendar, making sure the next day is scheduled and structured. But on top of that, I happen to be ahead of myself. And so what I do is this thing in the military, they call it 15 minutes prior. And so, as a standard rule, if I have an event, I try to put 15 minutes ahead of it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So I need to have a little bit more discipline there. But it's really going into my calendar, making sure that if there's something that I want to do, I put it in there so that I
Mm-hmm.
get the notification that says, "Hey, Paris, show up to that thing that you said you were going to do." And then,
Mm-hmm.
even more importantly, I have windows and blocks set for specific things. So if it's personal
Mm-hmm.
development time, I'm going to put something in that slot, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
reading or it's gym time, right? If it's professional development, I might be reading again, or maybe I'm going to go do some studying and research. What I found recently is I go watch podcasts of folks like you and other people in the community, and I just want to hear more about what you guys are working on and what the community is doing. Sometimes I'm
Yeah.
doing research on, the HUD-VASH program for homeless veterans and things like that. Those are the ways that I stay on top of my schedule, and then I even have a block for like family time. When my kids get home, I unplug. I gotta go. I'm going to hang out with the kids. We're
Same
going on a walk.
here.
We're going to the park or something like that because that's what
Yeah.
matters to me, and that's what I built my life around.
Right. And the thing is, I mean, becoming an entrepreneur, a lot of people, yes, we do want to make money, make profit, et cetera, but it's because we're looking to have a life that's different from what we've been shown, by society. And so I'm with you too. I tell people, look, hey, my work schedule is between about 9:30 a.m. after my daughter gets dropped off to school and 3 p.m. when I have to pick her up because she is growing up. I don't want her to grow up and I never got to spend time with her, because
For
hey, when she
sure.
becomes a teenager, she's not going to want to hang out with me, right? So I need to
My kids don't
maximize
want to
that
do it
time now.
now. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
you're 5 years old. What do you mean you don't want to hang out? Like that's crazy.
What do you have that's better to do? Yeah,
You
but apparently,
pay your
yeah,
taxes, dog. What are you talking about?
right. But okay, so let's go back to what you shared earlier. There's this common thread of helping that runs through everything you do. Where does that come from?
Oh, that's a messed up question, and that's messed up because it's a really good question, but it's messed up because there's so many angles to attack there, and I want to keep it
Mhm.
succinct, which is my weakness, right? The
Mhm.
the ang- the thread of helping within what I do, the way I explain it is it's me being distinctly aware and attuned to my own trauma responses, right? It comes from what I experienced as a young man growing up in Philly in an underprivileged household. It came from being in an area that was not being served by the tax base, right? Because most of the homes in the area were abandoned or blighted, and so the school
Mhm.
district suffered, and all those other things. And there were so many points that I can look at when I was a young man that I said that could be better, and I wish somebody would help. And then when I joined the Marine Corps, the conversation within there is like, this is working. I have elevated myself in life, but there's systems in here that don't work, and I wish
Mhm.
somebody would help. And what I
Mhm.
realized one day is that I have the capacity for extreme work. And that sounds weird, but I realized that I am comfortable being uncomfortable for extended periods of time, whether that's doing a lot of work, right? That whether that's spending a lot of time doing something. And what I realized is that I can be the person. And I there's a statement in the military, in the Marines will say, if not me, then whom? And
Mhm.
the thread for me is that I am comfortable doing it. I will do the work. I will do whatever it takes to do the thing that is gonna help the most people. Because I wished that in those moments where I was vulnerable or I was not strong enough or I did not know enough, I said to myself, "I wish there was somebody who would help." And I
Mhm.
never want that to be the case if I can help it. If there's something that I can do, I wanna be the person that says, "Here's my hand. Take it. Let's go together. I'm
Lift
helping you."
someone up. Yep. Yep.
Each one teach one, lift someone up,
Yeah.
take somebody with you, so that and what I found in my journey over the last couple of years, just not just in the Marine Corps, but as I've transitioned out very recently, is that I can go and do all the things that I want to do on my own or with my family, but what I found is the most valuable for me personally and professionally is helping somebody and teaching them, and then they can go teach 3 or 4 or 5 people. And so if I teach 10 people and they teach 10 people and they teach 10 people, that's a greater impact than what I would do alone. And on top of
Mhm.
that, what I found on top of that is that it helps me out too. It comes back because they bring those people back into the community. They
Mhm.
bring those people into the fold and they say, "Hey, I learned this from Paris. Let me show you what I learned. Come meet him." And then I get enriched in so many different ways, like on the in the interpersonal space, and I just love it. It just I'm
Yeah.
an extrovert, so like that's where I get my energy, and
I couldn't
that's what
tell. I
fuels me.
really couldn't tell. I'm joking. No, so actually, you and I met because we were on a Zoom with a bunch of other people, and you just took the initiative to go lead that Zoom when it was just starting late and no one was there, no one knew what was going on. So definitely, you're an extrovert.
For sure.
So there are a couple of things that I heard in what you said, and it's the concept of lifting people up, being a helping hand, being a ladder for other people, and then also the concept, and I'm going to go say this from, like a spiritual perspective, teaching a person to fish instead of just say, hey, here's this
Ooh,
thing, and, I'll solve your problem, but you're now teaching someone to do more than what you've just taught them to do and to be able to pass that on to other people. And to me, we talk about legacy and building our businesses for our own families, but that is a legacy, that you're also building. So tell me, I know this is going to get really, really high up there, but at the end of your life, I mean, what do you want people to be able to say about Paris?
I would love I would love that if one day fast forward, because I intend to live a super long life, right? I'm
Right,
trying to be a
right.
centenarian, right? I'm trying to hit 100. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And I would love that if at the end of my life, the discussion was that I gave more than I received with the expectation of nothing in return. And
Mhm.
that's the succinct version, right?
Mhm.
I know I logically know that there is value that I can receive by helping people, but at the end of the day, like that's not necessarily why I do it. I do it because I enjoy I enjoy that distinct moment when I've taught someone something or I've invested time
Mhm.
and energy into someone, and I can. It's weird because I can see the light bulb, and that is just
Yeah.
such a powerful feeling for me, and I feed on that, right? I
Mhm.
enjoy that. And I would love if, I would love, I'm gonna get a little soppy for a second. My father passed away fairly recently, a few years ago, and so I went to his funeral. And my fear in planning this event was that no one would be there to speak for him because he and I,
Mm.
although I was raised with my father for the longest time because I was in the Marine Corps, I was away from home. And so, as a man, although as a young man I lived with him, but as an adult, as a man, our experiences were disparate. And so my deepest fear was that no one would be there to speak for him. And I was blessed enough that his impact on the community in his special way brought people to his wake. They would speak for him and speak to how he helped, and he was always there, and he would lend a helping hand. And I would love if that was the discussion for me.
Mm, mhm,
You
mhm,
know, and there's a lot of discussion that, we really can't get into because of the time there, but my father, he had big goals and dreams. He was entrepreneurial,
yeah,
he just didn't have the resources. He didn't have the
mhm,
community that I have with our mentorship and sub 2 with our community there. He doesn't have the persons like yourself and others who I've spoken to that understand these things. He was at it
mhm,
alone, and so
mhm,
my desire to give back is rooted in that. And what I would ask and hope is that one day, 100 years from now, well, then I'd be 130 something. But years from now, I would get to a point where people said, "Yeah, I remember when I spoke to Paris on my podcast and he shared this, that, and the other." And somebody took that and ran with it. And that would be the greatest gift for me. And then, of course, my
mhm,
children to be able to say, like, yes, my dad gave and he achieved and he did these things for the community and he built these things for us and he taught us the things so that we can go forth and give more and give greater
mhm,
than what he ever gave. I would love
mhm.
that. That would be amazing.
Yeah, and I bet you, and this is the thing, the beauty of when you're focused on living in your purpose and, acting in your purpose, your dad probably would have said, hey, well, he probably didn't know how many lives he impacted. And it's the same, when you're busy doing good and doing work, you don't know. You're not stopping to pat yourself on the back and say, hey, I just impacted all these people. So, at the end of your life, you probably will have a ton of people, speaking about
Hmm.
all the good that you've done in this world. I think this is a theme that keeps coming up in all the podcast conversations I've had with people. It's you know what is your purpose, and it's really the foundation for everything. Understanding, well, one, who you are and what is your purpose. Because if you don't understand those things, you're going to be pulled in so many different directions. You can't really focus your energies on creating the most impact in the world. So I can already see a bunch of things that make you a unique person. You mentioned that you're a unicorn agent, but what is your superpower? What makes you
Ooh.
so much more special than everybody else in this space? Because
So,
obviously you are special.
oh man, these are such great questions. You are just so good at this. What is my superpower? So I've stumbled with this question I've stumbled with the question of what is my superpower a lot lately. And what I've identified literally in the last like 5 days is that I found that my superpower is transaction engineering. And so I'm a creative person by trade because my time in the Marine Corps was telling stories, right? I was a storyteller in the Marines. I took photos and videos, et cetera, et cetera. And what I found in the real estate space is that the community is focused on solving problems. And as a problem solver, I'm a creative guy because I don't really see problems. I see opportunities and solutions. And
Mhm.
so what I've found is like I love getting involved in problems and creating a solution when there was no clear path, right? Especially within my uniques in the realm of like VA home loans, right? I've had a number of conversations in the last couple of days. It's like, oh yeah, this is definitely a problem, and you are low on solutions. But let me go pull something out of the brain cloud, right? What if we do this, that, and the
Mhm.
other? And I can just see the puzzle pieces like falling into place
Mhm.
where it's like, yeah, this aligns. If this is your problem, this is the answer. This solves all your problems, which is something that within the system we're supposed to do. But I found that that just happens to make perfect sense for me. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and on the other side of that, with the transaction engineering, and I think it goes hand in hand. What I found is that I have a distinct ability, and my superpower is being able to talk to other agents, partly because I am an agent. Being able to talk to other agents and explain to them in their language because it's different. It shouldn't be because
Mhm.
it's real
Mhm.
estate, but it's different. To be able to speak to them and say, "Let me speak to you in your realm, in your home, and let me tell you why this makes sense. Let me tell you about the pitfalls that someone's trying to communicate to you, but they don't speak the same language as you.
Mhm.
Let me
Mhm.
explain." And so I've been able to have some distinct wins in that space where I can come in and I can say, "Hey, you've got an agent that's hesitant. Let me talk to him. Let's see what we can work
Mhm.
on. I'm not even pitching
Mhm.
your deal. I just want to go coach him. I just want to school him up so that the barriers across the board for everyone else are reduced."
Mhm.
And then as we're after we have that conversation, then I can say, okay, now that they're not going to fight you tooth and nail, like let's figure out the solution that works for your customer. Let's work out the solution that works for their client. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah,
Mhm.
that's my thing right now, among the education piece. I think it's kind of twofold because each of those has a subset of education, one on the agent side and then other for those other partners.
Yeah. Yeah, so and that's a key point too. A lot of people are interested in getting into real estate and real estate investing, but a lot of people only know the agent side. Or, well, now you've got YouTube, you see a lot more about wholesaling there, but there's so many pieces of real estate that someone can get into. Again, I think, knowing who you are will tell you which niche in real estate investing is the best one for you. But
Absolutely.
as far as you're concerned, it sounds like direct to agent is what your focus is. So for someone who's listening and not understanding, they're thinking, oh, I want to get into real estate investing, and you're talking about transaction engineering and direct to agent. What is that exactly? What is it that you do?
So, going into the grinding of the potatoes, the direct to agent is the strategy, and then transaction engineering is one of the tactics within. Between the strategy and that lower tactic, it's really the education component. So, direct to agent is the process where I'm, as an investor or as an agent or any other person involved, reaches out to an agent or realtor. Who is licensed in their respective area. They probably have a listing, i.e., they have a home that they're helping a client sell, and for whatever reason, there's a data target that shows that this might be an opportunity for an
Mm-hmm.
investor, whether that is it's high days on market, whether that is it has images and it's obvious repairs. If it might be as overt as the agent put into the comments, investor special, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
motivated seller. Those are there's a number of data targets that identify an opportunity, and the agent outreach component is going through whatever means you can, whether you reach through another agent or if you have MLS access, or you go on Zillow and you see, hey, I see 123 Main Street is listed. Scroll down a little bit and you'll see the agent's information, right? Because it's public. They want to be contacted, which is another lowered barrier because then you don't have to worry about, does this person want to be reached out to? Yada, yada. Agents structure and
Mm-hmm.
functions,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to be contacted. So I reach out to them
Well, I
because
do
I'm
want to
solving a problem.
interject.
Yes.
Well, I do want to interject because, we do that too. But apparently, there are some agents who won't even put their numbers on a listing. So they don't want to be reached, which is crazy,
And so and
Yeah.
I think that's a very fair point, and that whenever I
Mm-hmm.
see a problem statement like that, like, I
Mm-hmm.
get on edge, right? I get antsy because my discussion here as an agent is that
Yeah.
an agent's responsibility, the course, the training, not super in depth, not super crazy if you have real estate background, but
Right.
agents are service providers. Their responsibility is to provide a service to the client, and they have what's called a fiduciary obligation.
Right.
There's an entire acronym, old card, Google it, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to provide obedience, loyalty, discretion. There's a number of conversations within there. If they're not providing services, i.e., they're not being contacted by people who are interested in real estate, then what are they doing? And so,
You're
as an
not serving
agent,
the
the
client.
conversation,
Yeah.
you're not serving the client. And so, the
Yeah.
discussion that I have there is, I had that, and they'll be like, "Well, I'm getting calls from investors." Good. Good, because there's more than just the small cadre of buyers. Even
Right.
worse, in a slipping market, you should be
Mm-hmm.
getting calls from investors. And the problem statement for you is that you have a mental block, Mr. or Mrs. Agent. Let me come in and help you understand how this works. So when I give you a cash offer, you're not saying this is a low ball insult. No, this is math. Let's not get
Mm-hmm.
insulted by math. Let's not get insulted by
And
formulas.
it's not personal at
And it's
all.
not personal one
Yeah.
bit. Let me show you what the formula says. Let me show you
Mm-hmm.
how I calculate these things. And that knowledge base is not widespread within the agent community. My long
Mm-hmm.
view in that space is that what a realtor's responsibilities are will evolve in the next 5 to 10 years. Right. I've had some
Mm-hmm.
conversations outside of this particular space, and I don't want to blow the lid off the can. The discussion that I'm seeing and I am trying to progress is that realtors who are bad at being realtors should not be realtors. If they don't understand the entirety of the market,
Mm-hmm.
if they are not seeing the entirety of the scope of the market, then they are not serving clients. And what I want to do, in my personal, like, deep seated rooted function of passion and frustration,
Wait,
is that
wait.
I
I
want to
think
put
I
them all
just
out of
got you
business.
started.
You did. I want to put them out of business. I want to
Yeah.
help people who
Yeah.
understand these things, the realtors who get it, they should win. The realtors who can come to a client and say, "Let me show you all the functions," they win, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as far
Let
as the
me show you
transaction
how to solve your
coordination,
problem.
exactly, across the
Mm-hmm.
entire spectrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
The wholesaler is not a bad word, but some agents don't like that. Like, it's a problem
Mm-hmm.
solver for a specific set of problems. You need to learn how to use that tool. I don't use a hammer for every problem. Sometimes it's
Right.
a screwdriver issue. Sometimes it's a crowbar. You need to
Mm-hmm.
understand that. And then within that discussion, going to educate those people is the fight. Um, Being competent and capable and understanding all the systems involved is relevant, and that's what I do. And then
Mhm.
the last component of there is that once you overcome the barrier of that agent's confusion or hesitance or their legal ramifications, or even sometimes it's an obvious one, it's the structure of their brokerage. Sometimes brokerages that the agents are a part of say, we don't want you involved in these transactions. Hey, I hear you, but right now your seller is not being served by your system and you need to let them go. But once
Mhm.
we get past those things, and they are surmountable, then we get into the discussion of transaction engineering. What does the seller need? What does the client need? Why is it not being served by the current system of list my property on the market for XYZ price and just bring in offers? Um, and what can I do to get them to close?
Yeah.
Maybe that client has no equity, right? There's an entire structure and business model built on identifying the data target of no equity deals, i.e., the once the price is sold, once the property's value is up hovering around the range of once all the expenses are paid, there's no money to the seller. In that instance, I want to help the seller. I want to get them money, and I can do that with creative financing, with other
Right.
structures. And so
And
depending on
there,
what the seller needs, we'll get after it that way.
yeah, and like we were talking about earlier, there are just so many different avenues here in this investing space, and so many different ways to provide a solution for people. And by the
Absolutely.
way, when we get off here, I do need to talk with you about an opportunity. So,
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
always
yeah.
doing business. But, for those people who are listening and getting excited about what you're saying, and what you're trying to accomplish here, um, how do they reach out to you, and what kinds of things can they reach out to you about?
So absolutely. So anybody who's interested in these things that we've talked about today can find me across all socials. I'm on Facebook at Paris Capers. I'm on Instagram at Paris Phones Homes. I'm on YouTube. I'm building my YouTube platform. You can find me on there at Paris Capers Social. I'm also on TikTok at Paris Capers. No, on TikTok I'm at Paris Phones Homes. But here's the thing: because of my time in the Marine Corps, if you Google my name, Paris Capers, what you will find is all my socials because my history on the internet is extremely, extremely long. I've been
Hmm.
publishing content for the Marine Corps, articles, videos, photos, etc., for the greater part of 13 years. And so,
Hmm.
if someone Googles me, they'll find me. I'm on LinkedIn, wherever they are, they can find me out there. I will say my
That's
main
awesome.
platform right now is YouTube. That's my
Yeah.
goal. And so, I'd love to see you over there. And if you come in over and subscribe, come into the comments. As far as what they can talk to me about, if we're talking about business structure, like the integration piece and how it works, that's easy. If you're a veteran and you want to figure out how to leverage your VA entitlement and invest with it, if you are an agent and you want to understand how creative finance works, how you can work with investors instead of being investor friendly, you can be investor focused and investor
Hmm.
supporting. I would love to talk to you, right? Because I want my partners, the people that I work with, the people that I love and embrace, I want them to be able to come to you, provide value, and not be fought on something that is happening every day. I want to make you win. I want you to get paid. And we
Win,
can do
win,
that
win.
win, 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 the
Yeah.
triple win, right? Like the
Hmm.
illustrious. Because we
Hmm.
can do those things in ethical ways, legal ways that do not take from your client, that do not take from you as a representative with a fiduciary, and do not take from us as service providers as well. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, find me wherever you are. I'm there.
Yeah, and your name is
And if
so
I'm not,
unique
let me
too,
know.
so you can't not find Paris. But
Yeah,
awesome, Paris. So I think we could probably continue this conversation on for an
I
hour,
know,
but
I know.
gonna wrap it up. People, if you want more of Paris, he's just told you a bunch of different ways you can get in touch. You see his handle, IG handle on the screen there. Go ahead and follow him. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. I also invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find me on YouTube, Hayya Lee-McDonald. But I appreciate you all taking the time to join Paris and I here in this show today. In Paris, thank you so much for bringing your energy onto the show. I appreciate it and for sharing that knowledge and the goodness that you put out into the world. So, looking forward to doing more business with you. And guys, connect with Paris. You probably won't regret that.
Thank you for
See you
having
next
me.
time. Yeah,
See you next
absolutely. See you
time.
guys next time.